Hello, so this is a retake. I did do a half an hour video yesterday. I managed to delete it. So, I'm gonna try again. I wanted to talk about the police officer, Thomas Lane, one of the officers involved in George Floyd's death. He was holding down George Floyd's legs. He managed to post bail, $750,000 bail, yesterday or the day before. And I want to know where those funds came from. There was like a GoFundMe page or whatever set up, but it doesn't look like that was used. So I want to know what organisations, what groups, what rich people he's been taking money off of. I think that's necessary for his upcoming trial. I think we need to know that. I do. Because I think it's interesting that he, the only other white person other than Chauvin, managed to post bail, but the other two haven't. So I'm wondering where he got that money from, who tried to help him out, who wants to support him, you know? And just another quick note on him, Thomas Lane. If you look at his mugshot, he looks evil. Now, that could just be an unfortunate little photo, but he looks like he had no remorse at all for what he had been a part of in that mugshot. And I think we need to bear that in mind too. So yeah, I found that very interesting. On the other side of the pond over here, we're getting quite a different story, I think. So I wanted to talk about this because it just blew my mind yesterday. I was scrolling through Instagram, and Link Up TV and Grind Daily both shared a video of Tommy Robinson talking, and for informative purposes, not slating him, just sharing it. And I was like, what? So obviously I had to watch it because I needed to know how we've got to this point in the world. Just two outlets I never expected to share Tommy Robinson's videos for informative reasons, just like mad shocker. And yeah, I think it's very interesting what happened with that protest. So what happened is there was going to be a protest today in London, Saturday 13th of June, but Tommy Robinson said that he was going to go down to defend the war memorial, which gets defaced at every protest, not just Black Lives Matter protests. I want to point that out. If it has been done by Black Lives Matter or anything to do with these current protests, it also gets done at every protest, every left-wing protest I've ever been to that goes past Downing Street. Someone defaces that war memorial in some way or another, every single time, because it's an affront to most people. We won't get into the whole history of war memorial stuff today, because that's another debate for another time. But yeah, it's not just Black Lives Matter that would have been doing it if they were going to do it. I mean, it's part of the course, I think, in a protest in London, but it's another discussion, as I say. Anyway, Tommy said he's going to go down, defend this war memorial with his lads. And so celebrities started saying, like, grime artists, musicians, like everyone, all the people started saying, we're not being drawn out for a race war, so it's postponed, you know. Like they said, We're just not doing it. We're not being pawns in this game. The most interesting part is that Tommy Robinson then came out and said the exact same thing. The exact same thing. He's not being used as a pawn to start a race war either. And that's interesting to me. I think that's something that's worth paying mind to, you know? I think it's very interesting that both sides have just said, nah, we're not playing the media's game. We're not doing it this time. Not playing the media's game, not playing the government's game, just not playing games no more. This is serious now, you know? So, for Tommy Robinson to say that he doesn't want a he doesn't want a class war, or maybe he does. Maybe that, okay, side note, another time. He doesn't want a race war with black people. I think he wouldn't mind having one with Muslims, but that's not a race war. That's an ideology war. Je ne sais pas, you know. But he doesn't want it, and he's not doing it. And he said it as well. It's a ploy. It's a ploy. And he's right. Everyone's right. Everyone that's been saying that is right. I just find it interesting that both sides have said that. It does give me a little bit of hope, you know, that maybe we can have a class war. Not against the middle class. Hopefully the middle class cop the fuck on and get on the working class's side. But again, who knows? Who knows what might happen in the future? But I found that really interesting. Just Link Up TV sharing Tommy Robinson for an informative purpose. I was just like, okay, so we're at a different stage in the world now, because what is going on? Like, never in my life would I have imagined that, you know? Because I've done a lot of research on Tommy Robinson, Stephen Yaxley Lennon, let's get his name right, because Tommy Robinson's just a lad's name. Stephen's a much nicer name, man. Go for Stephen. Come on. It's nicer. Anyway, it's just personal preference. But anyway, I know it doesn't match the image, so never mind. Neither does a double-barreled last name. But again, that's another thing. Yeah, so I've done research into him, right? I watched his Oxford Union address, and I got to understand what he thought he was doing with the EDL. And I come from Watford, and he grew up in Luton. So, you know, there was some truth to some of what he was saying. It's just that it's because there was like an Al-Qaeda headquarters in Luton at one point. He brought that up to the local police, and they didn't pursue it in a way that they should have. Which is why he says he started the EDL. And then it obviously got out of hand and that. Listen, I'm not going to go into a whole thing on Tommy Robinson, to be honest. Today's not the day. But my point is, I felt like even if his thing is against Islam, I genuinely thought he'd be up for a race war in Britain. I thought no matter who it was, I just thought he was a white supremacist. I'll be honest. that's when I was like, when he said that, I was just like, okay. So I wonder whether that messed up some of his followers' heads the other day, yesterday or the day before. Because maybe they thought that's what they were supporting before that video. So it's given me a little bit of hope of like working class solidarity again. Yeah, interesting times where grime stations are sharing Tommy Robinson. I am a little bit speechless by it. Yeah, it's shocking. Anyway, I think I'll quickly talk about Stormzy and his £10 million pledge over the next 10 years for charities that are supporting black people. That's sick. That's what we need to be seeing, you know. I hope it encourages others to do the same. But Stormzy's been on that for a long time, supporting black people and amplifying black voices. Like, that's kind of his thing, I think it's fair to say. That and God. But yeah, Murky Books, that's a book publishing company that he started to support black voices particularly. Mad publisher, as you do. Then there's his scholarship for Cambridge, 2 black students per year put through Cambridge free of charge. Like, yes. Get 1,000 George poets that way. George poets, oh wow, can't speak and I've not even started smoking yet. Anywho, George the poet will get 1,000 George the poets. I understand why I didn't say it now, it sounds weird. Yeah, good times though, good times. I'm pretty optimistic with these kind of things going on, you know. What I am worried about is there's a lot of infighting starting to happen, which happens with all liberal movements, like all of them, or all left-wing, whatever. I don't even know you can easily call it that anymore, but I think largely this is a left debate, right? And as always, it's being diluted and divisions are being created because people are just infighting. There's just a lot of infighting. I've been attacked 3 times for attacked is an exaggeration and a half. People have had words with me telling me that the way I'm supporting Black Lives Matter isn't right, various different ways or whatever. But I'm doing more than all these people. I'm doing more than all these people to support Black Lives Matter and just wider discussions. I'm doing more than all of these people that are talking to me, and from what I can see, and that's why it's getting annoying. Like, I'll do things my way, you do things your way, and we'll support each other and move forward together. Or you can keep attacking me and I'll start ignoring you, and then we'll split off, and then we'll see how far everything goes. And that's what the right wants too, because it's what we do every time. It's what we do every time. We start setting standards that are far too high. We start saying that we need everything concrete. We need a definition for everything. We need an absolute set of everything that, we start being too rigid with ourselves. Grassroots movements are grassroots because that's how they start. And that means that they're not perfect at all. So we need to stop expecting perfection to be able to move forward. I think that kind of feeds into this cancel culture thing that we keep seeing at the moment as well, particularly with regard to this Black Lives Matter. And yeah, that brings me on to a topic that I've actually wanted to speak about, which is the idea of, I see it as whitewashing the past. One example that I think is one good example of this is Little Britain being taken off of the BBC website. Now, I'll tell you what, people can tell me if I'm wrong on this, but I'm putting it out there that I think that is to make white people feel better, not black people or minority ethnic people. And I'll tell you the why about that is, deleting it doesn't mean it didn't happen, and it doesn't mean that people didn't laugh at those things. People did laugh at those things. We collectively, as a majority, found that shit hilarious. So I think the deletion of it is to make white people feel better about the fact that they used to laugh at that shit, rather than having to actually confront those feelings within ourselves and go, oh shit, like, what does that say about me? People are going, well, let's just pretend it never happened. And that doesn't help anything. That doesn't inform anything. That doesn't change people's minds. So I don't like that approach, and I saw it with Gone with the Wind, I think, as well, over in America. I think it's been taken off of HBO or something. And I don't see the point, because once again, it doesn't mean that thing didn't exist. It doesn't mean people didn't enjoy that thing and what it represented for a long time. It just makes white people more comfortable with the fact that they don't have to see the reminder of the fact that they used to be okay with racism, So all of this deleting racist TV shows and art and stuff like that, like, that's not going to solve anything. It just makes white people feel better. And it's not about us, if you hadn't noticed. Like, it is about us because we need to be the ones to do the most change. But it's not about how we feel about shit. Everyone always knows how, particularly white women, feel about shit. We always know. It's not about your feelings. Well, it is. It's about confronting your feelings. And if that makes you uncomfortable, maybe you need to do some soul searching, find out why you used to find it funny, or why you used to enjoy Gone with the Wind. I've not watched it, so I don't. I've seen a couple of clips and seen like, oh, okay, they talk about how it was good in the old lazy days. What they're referring to is when they had slaves. So yeah, it's uncomfortable watching, for sure. Informative though, and it is our history, and you can't just delete it. That's what I'm worried about a little bit, is that people are, with cancel culture, people are just so, because it feels good. You get an adrenaline release if you've been a part of like hunting down the baddie and blah blah blah. But what are you actually doing? You're shutting down discussions, is what you're doing. And I think we need to bear that in mind.